Hello everyone. How are you? I am good. How about you, dear Bano? Welcome. Hey, dear Adam. Welcome. Hi, Amul Bhai. How are you? Thank you so much. Let's start right in. Hi, dear Bano. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Adam. How are you? Here is your beautiful name. Hi, Sefo. How are you? Man, I am fine. What about you? I am good. Thank you so much for asking. Hi, dear Sefo. Here is your beautiful name. I am good. How about you, brother? Thank you so much for joining. Welcome, everyone. Ma'am, is today watermelon day? Oh, I don't know. Good morning. Happy Friday to all of you. Where is Nightboard? Nightboard. Hi, welcome back. Yes, brother. Hi, it's me again. Oh, Nightboard is here. Welcome, everyone. Comment your name. Hi, dear Tarushi. How are you? Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Yeshu. Here is yours. Hi, dear Amir. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Andres. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Amy. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Vaishnavi. Here is your beautiful name, Vaishnavi. How are you? Hi, dear Lara. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Sabah. Here is yours. Welcome back. Hi, dear Mahi. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Raymas. Here is yours. Hi, dear. Welcome back. Let's see who is next. QUARESMA. Here is yours. Hi, dear Erkan. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Tree. Here is yours. Hi, dear Shannon. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Eva. Here is yours. Hi, dear Huda. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Zara. Here is yours. Hi, dear Crystal. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Asha. Here is yours. Hello, dear Aruba. Here is your beautiful name. You're most welcome. Hey, dear Dan. How are you? Hello, dear Frank. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Oscar. Here is yours. Hi, dear Diora. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Sumit. How are you? Here is yours. Hello, dear Robin. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Jasmita. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Adnan. Here is your beautiful name. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Hello, dear Ferris. Here is yours. Hi, dear Knox. Here is yours. Hi, dear Carter. Here is your good name. Yes, brother Safu. Hey, dear Jaleel. Here is yours. Hi, dear Alaya. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Umeshma. What is your name? Umme Salma. Oh, hi, dear Umme Salma. Here is yours. Hi, dear Rabam. Ranam. Here is yours. Hello, dear Shore. Here is your good name. How are you? Hi, dear Nandita. Here is your beautiful name. Oh, you're most welcome, dear. Thank you. Hi, dear Addis. Here is yours. I got is not. Okay. Hi, dear Rosan. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Dia. Here is yours. Hi, dear Ayush. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Gulsam. Here is your Gulsum. What a beautiful name you have, dear. Hi, dear Rilahi. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Olivia. Here is yours. Hey, dear Addie, here is your good name. Hi, dear Lexi, here is yours. Hi, dear Zatul, here is your good name. Hi, Riaz, hi, I am good. How about you? Walaikum salam. Here is yours. Hey, dear A and K. Hi, dear Zaya. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Ashutosh. How are you? Here is yours. Hello, dear Sila. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Alia. Here is yours. Hi, dear Mary. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Regan. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hey, dear Dana. Here is your good name. Thank you so much for remembering me. Hi, dear Destiny. Here is yours. Hi, dear Ben. Here is yours. Ben's. Oh, here is your good name. Hi, dear Easy. Here is yours. Hello, dear Ishi. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Zalia. Here is yours. Hello, dear Gazelle. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Rudranj. Here is yours. Hey, dear Arlene. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Aditya. Here is yours. How are you? Hey, dear Addie. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Hanan. Here is yours. Hi, dear Akshara. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Mahina. Here is yours. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Ayan. Here is is your beautiful name? Hi, dear Amir. Here is yours. Hi, dear Elenka. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear EVANGELINE. Here is yours. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Don't forget to double tap on your screens. Hi, dear Huda. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Fidan. Here is yours. You're most welcome. Hi, dear Aubrey. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, Mahi. Welcome back. Mahi Khan. Here is yours. Hey, dear. Okay. Thank you so much for your patience, guys. Hi, dear Creepy. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Leah. Here is yours. Hey, dear SANJAR. Here is your good name. Hi, dear the Silver. Here is yours. How are you? Hey, dear Cora. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Kelly. Here is yours. Hello, dear Midhi Lodge. Midhi Lodge. Midhi Lodge. Here is yours. Hey, dear Chloe. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Akshi. Here is yours. Thank you so much. Welcome back, dear Hershali. How are you doing? I'm doing good. How about you, dear Mahi? Oh, let me write Akshay or Akshat. What was the name? Akshat. Here is yours. Hi, dear Harshali. Here is your beautiful name. Welcome back. Hey, dear Maria. Here is yours. Good to hear. Have a good day. Hi, dear Goroka. Here is your good name. Hey, dear Addie. Here is yours. Hi, dear Fudger. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear. Let's see who's next. Zhanin. Zanin. Here is yours. Hi, dear Tayeba. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Troy. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Shania. Here is yours. Hello. What are you saying? Kelly, here is yours. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Welcome and thank you for writing mine. And you call me, you call Harshu. Harshu, syrup. I mean, anything you want. Okay, dear Harshu. Hi, dear Ganesh. Here is a beautiful name. You're most welcome. Hi, dear Raju. Here is yours. Hi, dear Noel. Here is your good name. Hey, dear Hannah. Oh, Hannah is my favorite name. Here is yours. Hello, dear Stuti. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Boban. Here is yours. What a unique name you have. Hi, dear Vana. Here is your beautiful name. Yeah, why not? Why not, dear? You can call me dear Coffee or whatever you want. Hi, dear Aisha. Here is yours. Hi, dear Rayhan. Here is your name. Hello, dear Fairlene. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Safa. Here is yours. Hello, dear. Here is a good name. Hi, dear. Oh, stream is lagging. Just give me 1 minute. Welcome back. Hi, good to see you. Oh, welcome back. How are you doing today? Here is yours. Thank you so much for joining again. Hello, dear Asma. Here is yours, Okasha. What a beautiful name you have. Here is yours. Hey, dear. Hi, Fatima. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Usaka. Here is yours. Hello, dear Kara. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Rava. Here is yours. Hello, dear Zishan. Here is your good name. How are you? Hello, dear Abla. Here is yours. Hi, dear Ikra. Here is your good name. Is the stream is still lagging, guys? Muhammad. Hi, dear Muhammad. Here is yours. Thank you so much for joining. Hey, dear Cassie. Here is yours. Oh, stream is clear. Thank you so much, dear, for telling me. Hey, dear Valent. Here is yours. आज आपका रिजल्ट है क्या बना है रिजल्ट का Hey dear Miran, here is yours है ना सफू भाई देखा प्रोफेशनली करना चाहिए ना Hi dear Suhani, here is your good name. Hi dear Jannat, here is yours. How are you? एक तो ये बैकग्राउंड नॉइसेस एक मिनट Okay, A grade. Oh, congratulations, dear. Hi, dear Darshu. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Rachel. Here is your good name. Hi, dear. Thank you so much, Asma, for joining, dear. Welcome back. Let's see who is next. Bodem. Here is yours. Yeah, you have such a beautiful name, dear Janet. Hi, dear Vivian. Here is yours. Yeah. Hi, dear Carlos. Here is your good name. Let's see who is next. LACHANWILSON. Here is yours. आज हैंड्स पट्टे लग रहे हैं कल मोटे लगे थे कल स्वेलिंग बहुत हुई थी कल मेरे हाथों में दर्द हो रहा था इसलिए Hi dear Abdullah, here is yours. Hello dear Imal, here is yours. Hi dear Manya, here is your good name. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Don't forget to double tap on your screens and let's see who is next. Hello, dear Mariam. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Ella. Here is yours. Who is saying meow meow? Oh, Darshu. Hi, dear Ayla. How are you? Let's see who is next. Hey, dear David. Here is your beautiful name. Oh, welcome back. Hi, dear Yoga. Here is yours. Hi, dear Zan. Here is a good name. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Hi, Nitik. Welcome back. I am good, brother. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, Asma. I know, dear. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Divanshi. Here is yours. How are you? Mine. What is your good name? Hello, dear Ikra. Here is yours. Hi, dear Julia. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Janice. Here is yours. Hey, dear Gianji. Here is your good name. How are you? Yes, I am fine. It's okay, dear Nitik. Hi, dear Mishti. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Muntaha. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Sharika. Here is your good name. No, no, Amul bhai. Hi, dear Naila. Here is yours. Hello, dear Z Soul. Here is yours. Hello, dear Abiha. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Ria. Here is yours. Yes, dear Asma. Why not? Darshu. Hi, dear Param. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Chavi. Here is yours. Hi, dear Hazel. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Maz. Here is yours. Hey, dear Lala. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Neemate. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Janvi. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Lavin. Here is yours. Hi, dear Ivana. Here is your good name. Safu, I am reading your comments, brother. Hi, welcome. Hi, dear Warwick. Here is yours. Hello, thank you so much. Arpita, here is yours. My name is Ishal. Hi, dear Zaria. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Arman. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Aksa. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear. Thank you so much. What is your good name? Hi, dear. What is it? Pratiksha. Pratiksha. Here is yours. Hello, dear Alea. Here is your good name. How are you? Hey dear Asma, here is your beautiful name. Oh नहीं, ब्रेकफास्ट नहीं हुआ अभी तक, लंच कहाँ से हो गया भाई. Bhavin, here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Salsa. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Rain. Here is yours. Hello, dear. हाँ, पता है क्यों? Isfad. Here is yours. गर्मी में कुछ खाने का दिल ही नहीं करता है भाई. I am good. How about you, dear Pratiksha? Thank you so much for joining. Hey, dear Daylan. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello. हाँ ठीक है, ये अच्छा था भाई. Hi, dear Suhana. Here is your beautiful name. Thank you so much. Hi, dear Veer. Here is yours. Hello, dear. Let's see who is next, guys. Code game खेलें क्या? Darling. Here is yours. Hi, dear Guraisu. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Let's see who is next. What a unique name you have, dear. Hi, dear Asma. Here is yours. Hello, dear Hannah. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Valentine. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Vanya. You're most welcome, dear. Here is yours. Hello, dear Astro. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear. You are from Indonesia. Oh, so good to have you here. I'm good. How about you? Guys, double tap on your screens. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, Pratiksha, you want a screenshot, dear? Here is yours. Hi, Zainab. How are you? Here is your good name. Hi, dear Zainab. How are you? Pratiksha, you are from Nepal. Good to have you here. Hi, dear Himanshi. How are you? Hey, dear Zainab. Here is your beautiful name. Oh, good. Hi, dear Himanshi. Here is yours. How are you? Have a nice day to you too. You are from Philippines. Oh, so good to have you here. Let's see who is next. Let me check the name. You are from Philippines. Okay. Hey, dear Joshua, here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Eva. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Nick. Here is yours. Crystal from California. Oh, nice. Hi, dear Taylor. Here is your good name. You know, our moderator is from Nepal too. Hi, dear V. Here is yours. Hello, dear Raj. Here is your good name. How are you? Hello, dear Tanha. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Piyush. Here is yours. How are you? Hey, dear Katra. Here is your beautiful name. Huh. Hi, dear Lydia. Here is yours. Hi, dear Abby. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Susie. Here is yours. Hey, dear Dante. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Aradhya. Tyler. Okay, dear Tyler, here is yours. Hi, dear Aradhya. Here is yours. Welcome. I am doing good, dear. How about you? Hello, dear Hafsa. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Georgie. Here is yours. Hello, dear. I don't know how to draw. Tsabita. You're most welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I am doing good. How about you? Hello, dear Nicolina. Here is yours. Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Akriti. Here is yours. Hey, dear Arni. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear. Oh, thank you. Nail. Here is yours. Hi, dear Arjun. Here is your beautiful name. You're most welcome, dear. Thank you. Hi, dear Arya. Here is yours. Hello, dear Leva. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Dana. Here is yours. Hello, dear Avni. Here is yours. Okay. Hi, dear Chelsea. Happy birthday. What is your good name? Here is yours. Hi, dear Jonzet and H. Here is yours. Hi, dear Gargi. Welcome back. How are you? Hi, dear Arnav. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear. Thank you. But what is your good name? MSD. Here is yours. Hi, dear Kapil. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Wahid. Here is yours. I am fine. Hey, dear Wahid. Here is yours. Hello, dear Luca. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Tejasvi. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear. Yeah, Tomasi. Here is your beautiful name. No, I don't know. Who is he? Hey, dear Salma. Here is yours. Hello, dear Jiun. Here is yours. Oh, okay. Yeah. Can you do Mustaqim? It's a big though. No, it's okay. Mustaqim. Here is yours. Oh, MS Dhoni. You are talking about MS Dhoni. Okay, now I got you. Brother Zaria. Hi, dear Zaria. Here is yours. Hey, dear Eric. Here is your good name. Yay, thank you. You're most welcome. Okay, Azia and Sinovia. Hi, dear Azia. Hello, dear Sinovia. Here is yours. Here are yours. Oh, thank you so much. Hi, dear Kavyans. Here is your good name. How are you? Hello, dear Annie. Here is yours. Hi, dear Dieter, here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Vedant. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Rishi. Here is yours. Hey, dear Shehbaz. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Honey. Here is yours. Hello, dear Tanvi. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Bima. Here is yours. Hi, dear Oscar. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Cheyenne. Here is yours. Hi, dear Karthik. Here is yours. How are you? What is your name? Ashrita. Hey, dear Ashrita. Here is yours. Hi, dear Kamaya. What a unique name you have. Here is yours. Hey, dear Rance. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Eva. Here is yours. Hi, dear Darshan. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Alex. Here is yours. Hi, dear Zizi. Here is a good name. Guys, double tap on your screens. Hi, dear Sama. Here is a beautiful name. Hi, dear Easter. Here is yours. Hi, dear Hamna. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Suhana. Here is yours. And other Suhana. Welcome. Hi, dear Arya. How are you? Thank you so much. Hello, dear Kurdistan. Here is yours. How are you? Can you guess, dear Gargi? Hi, dear Kritika. Here is yours. Hi, dear Diksha. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Junaid. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Mariam. Here is yours. Hello, dear Christy. Here is yours. Hi, dear Joffrey. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Darshani. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, thank you so much, dear. Can you guess? Hey, dear Zoe, here is yours. No, why are you feeling Niranjani? Hi, dear Niranjani. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Manha. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Mahnoor. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Siddharth. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Imad. Here is yours. Double A? Double AD. Hi, dear 3 hour. No, it's 39 minutes. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Hisham. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear Danma. Here is yours. Guys, double tap on your screens and don't forget to press the like and subscribe button. Let's see who is next. No, I'm not from India. Hi, dear Daniel. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, welcome, Geeta. Hi, dear Geeta. Here is yours. ऑनलाइन हूँ भाई अभी भी. Hi dear Hisham, here is yours. Hi dear Bilawal, welcome back. How are you? Here is yours. No, I'm not from Nepal. Hey dear Ami, I have uploaded a Q&A video on my channel. If you wanna know about me, you can watch that video. Hi dear Amira, here is yours. Hi dear, what was the spelling? Mahrouc. Here is yours. Hi dear Jabir, here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Asima, here is yours. Hello dear Rain, here is yours. Vinod, hi dear Vinod, Vinod, here is your beautiful name. How are you? Oh, you are from Turkey. Merhaba. Hi dear Malak, here is yours. Hi dear Usama, here is your good name. Hi dear Mila, here is yours. Hi dear Guntaj, here is yours. Merhaba Niselsin, İzalara, hoş geldiniz. Hi dear Laiba, how are you? Hi dear Anasla, here is Angela. Here is your good name. Hi dear Emily, here is yours. Hey dear Eliza, here is your. Let me rewrite for you. Here is yours. Hey dear Danny, how are you? Hi dear Ayami, here is your good name. Hi dear Andrea, here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi dear Darcy, here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Kado, here is yours. Hi dear Rishit, here is your beautiful name. Hello dear. You're most welcome dear. Adul, here is yours. Hi dear Adrian, here is your beautiful name. Hey dear Raymond, here is yours. Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens, and there is a subscribe button waiting for your finger press. Let's see who is next. Jenny. Hi dear Jenny, here is yours. Hi dear Asher, here is your good name. Hi dear Masami, here is yours. Hi dear Charlie. Okay, Abigail. After this, here is yours. Hi dear Abigail, here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Flag. What are you doing? Lily, here is yours. Hi dear VJ, here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Lily, here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi dear Ismail, here is your beautiful name. Hey dear Anaya, here is yours. Hi dear Paul, here is yours. Hey dear Misa, here is your good name. Hi dear Rushda, here is yours. How are you? Hi dear Ishal, here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Elvas, here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hi dear I don't know how to draw a flag, dear. Yeah, Reggie. Here is yours. Hey, dear Aiden. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Tommy. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Hamid. Here is your beautiful name. Do you speak Kurdish? No, I don't know how to speak in Kurdish. Can you teach me some phrases like how to say how are you? Hi, dear Sangam. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Eliza. Here is yours. Hi, dear Hafsa. Here is yours. Yes, Safu brother. क्या हुआ है भाई? Hi dear ghost. Here is yours. नहीं मराठी नहीं आती मुझे. Hi dear Nikki. Here is yours. Hi dear Scarlett. Here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Araf. Here is yours. Hey dear Caesar. Here is yours. Hot Ray. Oh, मुझे लगा मैंने लिख दिया Hot Ray. Hey dear Hot Ray. Here is yours. Guys, double tap on your screens and don't forget to press the subscribe button. Hello, dear Alexa. Here is yours. Hi, dear Hamid. Okay, Hamid, if you want a screenshot, go for it. Don't forget to double tap on your screen, guys. Let's see who is next. Just give me 1 minute. Stay hydrated. Rabia. Hi, dear Rabia. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Rihanna. Here is yours. Hi, dear Amani. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Sky. Here is your. Yeah, my name is Ishahal. Hello, dear Anshvi. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Tanushri. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Kavya. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Afan. Here is yours. Hello, Arpita is done, dear Adira. Hi, dear Adira. Here is your good name. Hey, dear Rahna. Here is yours. I don't know how to draw a flag on the sand. Hi, dear Sarada. Here is your good name. I'm not that good at drawing, dear. Hi, dear Viku. Here is yours. Hello, dear Sana. How are you? Let's change the brush. Hi, dear Kartika. How are you? Here is yours. Hello, dear Sanaya. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Poppy. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Summer. Here is yours. Hi, dear Ali. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Payal. Here is yours. Hi, I am not. Oh my god, this comment is hi, dear Sanju. Here is yours. Hi, dear Prince. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Amira. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Shahan, here is yours. Have a good day. Hi, dear Zaira Fina. What a unique name you have. Here is yours. Hello, dear Bahlil. How are you? Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Alfio. Here is yours. Hey, dear Adam. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Ekansha. Ekanksha. Oh wow, what a beautiful name you have. Ekanksha. Here is yours. Hi, dear Arnab. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Noemi. Here is yours. Hey, Alamar. Welcome back. How are you? Thank you so much for joining again. Hi, dear Neeraj. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Chima. Here is yours. Hello, dear Miyad. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear. Thank you so much, dear Firat. Nobita. Nobita? Doraemon. Hey, dear Aldo. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Laiba. Here is yours. Hi, dear Sai. Here is a good name. Hi, dear. I am good. How about you, brother? Dear Umaima, here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Oli. Here is yours. Thank you so much, Aldo. Means a lot. Ashwarya. Hi, dear Ashwarya. Here is your good name. How are you? Hi, dear Nasrul. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear. Please don't worry about it. Please, me, Rafa. Hi, dear Rafa. Here is yours. Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens and let's see who is next. Hi, dear Ridhi. Here is yours. Hey, dear Darshini. How are you? Darshini. Hi, dear Roman. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Alfia. Here is yours. Hi, dear Rania. Is the stream is lagging, guys? Here is yours. Hello, dear me. Here is yours. Such a cool name. Hey, dear Samuel. Here is yours. It's lagging. Ah, mommy. Hi. Now? Is it better now? Hi, dear Sakshi. Here is your good name. You're most welcome, dear. Hey, dear Sammy. Sammy, here is yours. Oh, thank you so much for telling me, dear Jessica. Hi, dear Louisa. Here is yours. Hello, dear Bilal. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Zainab. Here is yours. Hi, what is your name? Let me check the spelling. Guliana and A. Here is yours. Hi, dear Guru. Here is your good name. Hey, dear Zumra. Here is yours. Hi, dear Mahira. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Jay. Here is yours. Hi, dear Noor. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Manu. Here is yours. Hi, dear Afi. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Jenny. Here is yours. Hi, dear Akila. Oh, welcome back. Here is yours. My name is Ishal. Hi, dear Akil. Here is yours. Hi, dear Humera. Here is your beautiful name. Why Nightbot is giving you the timeout? Nightbot, why are you doing this, man? Okay. Hi, dear Dave. Here is yours. Let's see who's next. Astaghfirullah. Hi, dear David. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Deepu. Here is yours. Hello, dear Zule. Here is yours. Hi, dear Sammy. Here is your good name. You are the cutest, dear Humera. Okay, here is yours. Hi, dear Rifan. How are you? Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screen. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Devi. Here is yours. Hi, dear Sion. Here is your good name. Rifan. Rifan. Here is yours. Hi, dear Havia. Here is your beautiful name. What now? Hey, dear Kimi. Here is yours. Thank you so much. Hi, dear Hiba. Nice meeting you, dear. Here is yours. Hi, dear Habika. What a unique name you have, Habika. Here is yours. Hey, write my name. What's a good name, dear? Hi, dear Prachi. Here is your beautiful name, Gracie and Jolly. Here is yours. Hi, dear Arusha. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Hamna. Here is your beautiful name. Oh, नहीं भाई. Hi, dear Hiba. Here is yours. Let's see who's next. Hi, dear Nazla. Here is your good name. Let's see. Double tap on your screens. Let me drink some water. I will say bye. You will say bye, love you, Humera, because I'm going. Bye, dear Humera. Take care. Have a good day. And thank you so much for your precious time, dear. Api, yes. Welcome. Ali, here is yours. Hi, dear Zoya. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear. Thank you so much for subscribing. Aditu. Here is yours. Too much emoji. Safu. Bro, please don't use too much emojis. Hi, dear Shobit. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Suman. Here is yours. Thank you so much for subscribing, dear. Not me. Rain, your name was done before, but if you want a screenshot of your name, dear, here is yours again. Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Luca. Here is your good name. Hi. Hello, dear. You're most welcome. Herbals, here is yours. Hi, dear Brooklyn. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Aditya. Here is your beautiful name. Why take care, Safu brother? Hey, dear Camila. Here is yours. Starshu, welcome back. Hey, dear Eloise. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Shrishti. Here is yours. Thank you so much, dear. Lots of love. Hi, dear Leah. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Leanne. Here is yours. Thank you. Good day to you too. Guys, don't forget to double tap on your screens and there is a subscribe button waiting for your finger press. Hi, dear Glory. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Ravi Raj. Here is yours. Andrea. Hey, dear Andrea, how are you? ¿Cómo estás? Hola. Hi, dear Zahra. Here is yours. Hello, dear Abhay. Here is yours. Hi, dear Ramisha. Ramisha, here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Daniela. Here is yours. Hi, dear Lynn. Here is yours. If you wanna know about me, I have uploaded a Q&A video on my channel, dear. You can watch that video. Hi, dear Livy. Here is yours. Hi, dear Salim. Here is a good name. Guys, double tap on your screens. Glory. Hi, dear Glory. Here is yours. Hello, dear Imran. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Ashley. Here is yours. Hi, dear Maria. How are you? Here is yours. Hello, dear Cherry. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Salim. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Rimjim. What a beautiful name you have. Here is yours. Hi, dear Bhakti. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Sarah. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Jeona. Here is yours. Hello, dear Suman. Here is your beautiful name. Okay, dear. Livy. Faizan. Hi, dear Faizan. Here is yours. Livy wants a screenshot. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Hey, dear Ellie. Hi, Kevin. Hey, Ashley. Ashley, one of my favorite names. Hi, dear Kevin. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Ashley. Here is yours. Hi, dear. You're most welcome. Radifa. Radifa wants a screenshot. Go for it. Ahmad. Hi, Ahmad. How are you? Hi, dear Ahmad. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Razin. Here is yours. Hey, dear Natalie. Here is your good name. How are you? Hi, dear Ellie. Here is yours. Hey, dear. You're most welcome. Ren Goku. Here is yours. Hi, dear Natalie. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Sangam. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Iskobal. Oh, what is your name? Let me check the spelling, dear. Eskobol. Here is yours. Hi, dear Hannah. Here is your beautiful name. Hey, dear. Oh, Livy, you are cool. Hey, dear Hugh Joe. Hey, dear. Hi, welcome. Oh, live back. Live is back. Thank you so much, guys. Ayan. Hey, hey, dear Ayan. Here is yours. Hi, dear Ivan. Here is your beautiful name. Ayan and Ivan. What are rhyming names? Let's see who is next. Hi, dear Ali. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear I. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Aish or Aisha. Here is yours. How are you? Hey, dear Anissa. Here is your beautiful name. Kevin. Ayan. Ayan. No. Let me rewrite. Here is yours. Now it's perfect, I think. Hello, dear. You're most welcome. JAAT. Here is yours. Hi, dear Batul. Welcome back. How are you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Emma. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Shaira. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Eloise. Eloise is Charlie. Hi, dear Charlie. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Shivansh. Here is yours. Sabila. Hello, dear Sabila. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Amber. Here is yours. Let's see who is next. Steve. Hey, dear Steve. How are you? Hi, dear Amarin. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Kim. Here is yours. Hello, dear. Oh, thank you so much, dear. Lots of love. Welcome back. What's a good name? Mahnur. Hi, dear Mahnur. Here is your good name. Thank you so much. Rudraksh. Hi, dear Rudraksh. Here is yours. Hello, SpongeBob SquarePants. Hi, dear Tasmin. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Hadia. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Jenny. Here is yours. Hi, dear Rabia. Here is your beautiful name. Lagging. Oh no. Yash. Hi, dear Yash. Stream is still lagging, guys. Double tap on your screens. Diana. Hi, dear Diana. Here is yours. I am good. How about you, dear? Hi, dear Max. Here is yours. Hi, dear Anjali. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Isabella. How are you, Rayan? Hi, dear Rayan. Here is yours. Hey, dear Ariella. What a unique name you have. Here is yours. Hi, dear Johnny. Here is yours. Hey, dear Rabia with double B. Here is your. Let's see who's gonna be the 100 liker guys. Double tap on your screens. Hi, dear Mina. Welcome back. Here is yours. Hey, dear Beatrice. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Sky. Here is yours. How are you? Hello, dear Pratibha. Here is your beautiful name. Stream is lagging, huh, mommy? My stream is lagging. Ada. Hey, Ada. Welcome, dear. Ada. With a star. How are you, Messi? Hey, dear. Let me write Steve again. Hi, welcome back, Mahi. Here is yours. How are you? Thank you for joining. Hi, dear Safira. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Yuli. Here is yours. Hi, dear Mark. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Rula. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Yassi. Here is yours. Hello, dear Janet. Here is your good name. How are you? Hi, dear Darshan. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Eric. Here is yours. Hello, dear Shreya. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Giovanni. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Fatima. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hey, dear Alex. Here is yours. Hi. Oh, get well soon, dear. Hi, dear Ayla. Here is yours. Ayla and Bella. Here is yours. Hi, dear Sigit. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Kamran. Here is yours. Hello, dear Jyoti. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Hasna. Here is yours. Hey, dear Ayan. Here is a good name. Hi, dear Kaylee. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Rabia with double B. Here is yours. Nice, you know. Hi, dear Taha. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Ali. Here is yours. Hi, dear Shrishti. Here is your beautiful name. Hina for you. Hey, dear Abbas. Here is yours. Hey, dear Balin. Okay. Here is yours. Welcome, dear Merhaba. Niselson. Here is yours. Let's see who is next, guys. Don't forget to double tap on your screens, and there is a subscribe button waiting for your finger press. Jisoo wants a screenshot. Here is yours, dear. Hi, welcome back. She is taking screenshots, so just give her 1 minute. Fahruddin. Wow, what a beautiful name. Welcome. Hey dear Leah, here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Danja, here is yours. Hey dear Alex, here is your good name. And let's write. Here is yours. I don't know if the spelling is correct. Let me check. Fahre. Oh, it is. Wow, याद हो गया था spelling. Hi dear Rishit, here is your beautiful name. How are you? Thank you. Hi dear Louise, here is yours. Hey dear Ayaz, here is your beautiful name. You're most welcome. Hi dear Leah, your name. Hey dear Tibia, here is yours. What a unique name you have. Where are you from, dear? Hi dear John, how are you? Let's see who is next. Pihu. Hi dear Pihu, here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Grace, here is yours. Hello dear Draken, welcome back. How are you doing today? Here is your beautiful name. Mary. Hi dear Mary. Oh, what was the spelling? Let me check. Mary. Here is yours. What a unique name you have. Hi dear Laiba. Here is your beautiful name. Hello dear Hamza. Here is yours. Hi dear Vinita. Here is your beautiful name. Hi dear Rafe. Here is yours. Hello, dear Noor. Here is yours. I am from Argentina. Lots of love. Thank you so much for joining, dear. Hi, dear Aisha. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Sanya. Here is yours. Hey, dear Avinash. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Hasib. Here is yours. Hello, dear Adele, here is yours. Hi, dear Kabya, here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Sabir, here is yours. Hello, dear Mazin, here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Anjali, here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Zara. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Hasib. Here is yours. Hello, dear Yime. Here is yours. How are you? Hi, dear Muhammad. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hi, dear Kanishka. Here is yours. Thank you so much. Hi, dear Karan. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Leora. Here is yours. Umme. Hi, dear Umme. Here is your good name. Hi, dear Aman. Here is yours. Unicorn. Hi, dear Shafna. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? Hello, dear Zaki. Here is yours. Hi, dear Ishika. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Gazala. What a unique name you have, dear Gazala. Here is yours. Hi, dear Fahim. Here is your beautiful name. Hello, dear Zan. Here is yours. Hi, dear Charlotte. Here is your beautiful name. How are you? I am good. Thank you so much for asking, dear Mukaddas. Hi, dear Mukaddas. Here is yours. Hi, dear Ahmad. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Mohan. Here is yours. Hello, my name is Ishal, dear. Welcome, Srilu. Hi, dear Srilu. Here is your beautiful name. I am good. How about you guys? Don't forget to double tap on your screens. Knife. Hi, dear Knife. Here is yours. Thank you so much. Hi, dear Manasa. Here is your beautiful name. Hi, dear Himesh. I am good. How about you? Here is yours. Hi, dear Rajesh. Here is your beautiful name. Hello. Welcome everyone. Don't forget to double tap on your screens. And now it's time to end the stream. And our last name for this stream is Elsa or Ritu. Okay, Ritu. Umar Adex. Oh, what a unique name you have, dear Adex. Here is yours. And now it's time to end the stream, guys. Don't forget to double tap on your screens. And there is a subscribe button waiting for your fingerprints. Thank you so much for your precious time. I'll be back after 1 hour. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Stay hydrated. Bye.